The Orange and Black kicked off a 4-game road trip last night with a stop in Chocolatetown. Short-handed roster with several players out due to COVID protocols. Phantoms found themselves down 3-0 midway through the contest, still rallied to send the game to overtime, ultimately falling in the bonus session. But the team's point streak up to 8 consecutive games now. This directly on the heels of an 8-game winless skid. With more on the Orange and Black, let's welcome in our lead Phantoms broadcaster, Steve Degler, into our SEN studios. Degs, first and foremost, can you please help us make some sense of what's going on with this hockey team?
Well, I wish I could, Dan, because it has really been an interesting season, that is for sure. And it really started that way right out of training camp. A lot of injuries that we weren't expecting. No Tanner Lazinski, no Ryan Fitzgerald. Tyson Forster goes down early in the season. And oh yeah, that COVID thing has really reared its ugly head as well, with all the postponements, plus now the taxi squad. So the roster has been different virtually every game. Phantom struggled scoring goals coming out of the gate. They had 1 goal in each of their first 4 games. But as you mentioned, 8 straight with points. They're a little bit healthier, and things are certainly pointing in the right direction right now.
7-0 or 6-0-2 now over the last 8 games. And now that we're into 2022, we got 3 months of hockey under our belt. Thought it might be a nice time to kind of check in on some of the major storylines for the first, we'll call it half of the season. So let's start with, in your opinion, the biggest surprise for this hockey team so far.
You know, sometimes these are very difficult to come up with, but this to me was a very easy one. I mean, we're talking about a guy who made the Phantoms coming out of training camp, and when things got underway back in September into early October, this was a player who was probably close to starting the season in Reading, not in Lehigh Valley. Entering the season, Hayden Hodgson had played 41 games in the AHL, all of them in the 17-18 season with Cleveland, scoring 3 goals and adding 3 assists. Since then, he's played primarily in the ECHL and a short stint in Slovakia. After signing with Reading in July, he was invited to the Lehigh Valley training camp. Injuries leaving the Phantoms shorthanded at the beginning, and Hodgson has taken great advantage of his opportunity, signing an AHL contract in October. This is a guy with size, speed, and a really good shot. But no one saw this coming. He has become one of the team's top scorers despite missing 7 games. The 6'2", 215-pounder from Windsor, Ontario, has posted 6 goals and 7 assists for 13 points, 7th most on the team. He has the only 4-point game by a Phantom, and he is +7 on the season, and he's also brought a physical presence to the team. Hodgson has gone from being a virtual unknown at the start of training camp to a vital piece of the Phantoms as we approach the halfway point of the season, and his head coach, Ian LaPerriere, has certainly taken notice.
For me, he's been one of our top forward all year. He came out of nowhere, and I didn't know. That's another guy I didn't know he was. And I know why, because I asked him 2 weeks ago, I'm like, am I missing something in you? Like, I mean, I love your game, don't get me wrong, but how come I've never heard of you? You got a big injury, and you took a year off, and that's probably why I don't know who he is, but he sure is making a name for himself right now.
He sure is making a name for himself right now. And you're right, sometimes biggest surprise, a tough selection, this is low-hanging fruit. It's the right call for a guy. You said he plays with size, he plays with speed, he's got some offensive ability. Reminds us a lot of Max Willman and that story of ECHL to AHL. And head coach Ian LaPerriere has even told us he could see him potentially cracking an NHL roster down the road.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, he really is on the same path that Max Willman was on. He's a different type of player, but he has been sneaky good for this team. And he's gone from a guy that was in the lineup because he had to be to a guy now you can't take out of the lineup.
You mentioned he has the only 4-point game for a Lehigh Valley Phantom this season. Let's focus more on that individual side of things. For you, the best individual performance so far?
Well, I nearly doubled up. I nearly went with Hodgson again because of that 4-point game. As Dan mentioned, no other Phantom has done that, but I went to the net instead for this honor, and we're going to look at the goaltending for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. And Ian LaPerriere has said all season long he's had very few, if any, issues with his goaltending, and the Phantoms have been forced to use 6 netminders already. There have been several games this year where the Phantoms goalie has been their best player on the ice for long stretches of time. They've been able to keep the team in almost all of the games, giving Lehigh Valley a chance to pick up valuable points in the Atlantic Division standings. When he has been with the Phantoms, 24-year-old Felix Sandstrom has been the main guy between the pipes this season, playing in 15 of the team's 27 games thus far. His strong finish last season has carried over to the current campaign as well. This is from November 3rd. Sandstrom was a brick wall against the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins at PPL Center. The Flyers' 3rd-round pick in 2015 has posted 2 shutouts in his native Sweden, and he has a couple more in the ECHL with the Reading Royals. On this night, He blanked the baby pen, stopping all 25 shots sent his way, including 10 in the first period for his first career AHL shutout. The saying in hockey goes that your goalie needs to be your best penalty killer. Sandstrom proved that in this game as he helped the Phantoms kill off all 8 Wilkes-Barre-Scranton power plays to preserve the shutout. Sandstrom was rewarded for his strong play as he made his NHL debut with the Flyers last week. He was very impressive there as well, stopping 43 of 46 shots in an overtime loss at San Jose. And Dan, those 43 saves for Sandstrom, the most by a Flyers goaltender making his NHL debut. He was worthy of the call-up, and he nearly pulled off a miraculous win for them on the road in that contest.
He gave the Flyers a chance to win that night. When he's been in the net for Lehigh Valley, he's given this team a chance to win. A tremendous individual performance for Felix on that night, and that was a win this team needed. Remember, it was early November. That was the first win that this team got this season, also the first head coaching victory for Ian LaPerriere. So that was a nice moment early on in the season. Win number 1 when it comes 8 games in, probably not the best moment of the season. So what has been the best moment so far?
For me, this is going to be one that might get this honor every single year. It's one of the best nights at PPL Center. It's the annual Teddy Bear Toss game. The big question going into every one of these is which Phantom will be the one to score the teddy bear goal. Stuffed animals of all shapes and sizes brought to PPL Center with fans waiting for that first Phantoms goal December 11th. The big moment came 9 minutes into the first period. Cam York entered the zone in the left wing. He found a hard-charging Wade Allison going to the net. Daniil Tarasov makes the initial save, but Jerry Mayhew was there for the rebound and connected for his 8th goal of the year. Allison started this play at the other end and rushed up ice, and Mayhew was in a perfect spot to convert and start the celebration. The game, as you might expect, was delayed for several minutes as fans tossed all of their stuffed animals onto the ice. The total number of bears, bunnies, and whatever this year was 6,593, with all of them donated to Valley Youth House to help make the holidays a little brighter for underprivileged children in the Lehigh Valley. And as usual, this is also part of the coolness of this event. The players and Melvin were willing participants in the cleanup efforts on the ice. But then, after that was done, it was back to the game. Pat Nagel took over in net for the Phantoms to start the second period. Just 1:46 into the frame, Igor Zamula hauled down the Monsters' Carson Meyer, who was awarded a penalty shot. Nagel was more than ready, denying Meyer to keep it a 1-1 game. Cleveland eventually took a 2-1 lead, but that was the only goal Nagel allowed in relief of Sandstrom. The veteran netminder stopped 21 of 22 Cleveland shots, and the Phantoms got the last 3 goals of the night from Zamula, Adam Clendenning, and Maxime Sushko for a 4-2 victory. The 34-year-old Nagel has posted 198 wins in the ECHL. This victory was his first in a Phantoms uniform. He signed with Lehigh Valley back in September and is in his 11th professional season. The great night started with Mayhew, however, and scoring in these games has become quite the habit for him.
Man, there were a lot of teddy bears. That took a long time, but no, it was great. I think I've had 4 out of 5 teddy bear toss games I've scored, so it's kind of just good luck for me. We had a little bet going on with the guys, and it was nice. It was a good play by Allison. He kind of put it out front for a rebound. I just tapped it in, so yeah, special.
You just want to make a big save. We had a great first period. We came out strong, got that goal, got going. Felix was playing well, so I just wanted to build off of that.
In 7 teddy bear tosses now, the number of donated stuffed animals north of 37,000. You're right. This is also low-hanging fruit for me, one of my annual best moments of the season. Also, this feels like ancient history now because lest we not forget, that victory snapped an 8-game winless skid for Lehigh Valley and was the start of this current 8-game point streak that they're now on.
Yeah, it was much needed, that's for sure. The team was really struggling. They were almost finding ways to lose games, where now they're finding ways to be able to get points in games with a couple of big comebacks, and that was really the start of it. And Nagel gets a lot of credit for coming in a situation where you don't know your goaltender's injured. It didn't happen during the game. It happened between periods when Sandstrom was not feeling well. And lo and behold, he went in there, and the veteran did his job with a great effort, and Mayhew brought down the teddy bears and the stuffed animals in just an awesome sight at PPL Center.
One of the best nights every single year, and great to have this one back after we had just a virtual teddy bear toss a year ago. So we mentioned that was the start of points in 8 consecutive games. We've seen some really fun, entertaining, good games from the Phantoms since. What's been the best game this team has played all year?
Well, this is also kind of an easy one for me. We go back to New Year's Eve and the Phantoms with a huge comeback win at Utica. Now, keep in mind, it is a holiday. You're playing on the road on New Year's Eve. You're facing the best team in the league. The Comets were 18-1-2. And this night did not get off to a good start, that is for sure. Just 2 minutes and 55 seconds in, Chase DeLeo gets behind the Phantoms defense and nets his 4th of the year to quickly make it 1-0 Comets. 3.5 minutes later, Colton White rockets home his first of the season to increase the lead to 2-0. At 13:17, it's DeLeo again, this time from the slot. It's 3-0 Utica after 1. And 5 minutes into the second period, it's White again, this time from the left side, and it's a 4-goal deficit. Phantoms get the comeback, though. Maxime Sushko finds Logan Day for his first of the year. Down 5-1, Igor Zamula's shot is tipped in front of the net by Isaac Radcliffe. That pulls the Phantoms within 5-2 late in the second period. It is all Phantoms in the third period. Kyle O'Reilly with the steal. Hayden Hodgson rips home his 5th of the year to slice it to 5-3. Less than 4 minutes later, Garrett Wilson with the redirect in front, his 7th of the year, and we've got a 1-goal game. In the final minute, the Phantoms pull goalie Pat Nagel for the extra attacker. O'Reilly's sweet seam pass finds Hodgson again. Blasts one past Merrick's mittens to tie the game at 5, and we go on to overtime in Utica. Same two Phantoms in reverse order. Hodgson comes up with a steal, and he will find O'Reilly for the tap-in, the captain's 4th of the season, and the Phantoms come back for an absolutely amazing 6-5 win at Utica to keep that point streak alive. Really an incredible win considering the circumstances.
And that, plus the Phantoms were 0-4 in overtime outcomes leading up to that. And it was a Utica team that in 11 prior home games had allowed 19 total goals against. The Phantoms roughed them up for 6 on that one night. Okay, so that's what has been. What about moving forward? Quickly, Deggs, expectations for this team kind of going forward now over the course of the next few months?
Well, certainly the health situation is going to be very vital for this team and every team in the AHL. We're not quite at the halfway point right now. The AHL has extended the season to April 30th. They've expanded the playoffs, so 6 of 8 teams in the Atlantic Division are going to make the playoffs. Lehigh Valley is in spot number 6 right now, up from the basement. I expect this team to get healthier. Hopefully we'll see some guys coming back. Whether we will get a Tanner Lazinski or Ryan Fitzgerald, we don't know. Maybe Tyson Forster late in the year. The NHL situation will be a factor as well, how many guys will be on the taxi squad and things like that. But the way this team has trended the last couple of weeks, I'm very optimistic that this is certainly a playoff team. Well, from what we've seen, they're better than a lot of teams in the division. So I think we're in for an exciting finish here at PPL Center for the rest of the season. Phantoms
are scheduled to be on the road this weekend and the early part of next week. They'll return home. PPL Center next Saturday and Sunday. Of course, we'll have live coverage for you right here on SEN with our own Steve Degler and Steven Swavely up in the booth. Deggs, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Dan.